let me ask you something. And I need you to actually sit with this question, not just scroll past it. When was the last time you asked for something without immediately following it with an apology? Pause 4 seconds. When was the last time you said, I need help, and your chest didn't tighten like you just committed a crime? Pause. When was the last time you took up space, actual, unapologetic space in a room full of people you love? Longer pause. If you can't remember, this video is for you. And I'm going to need you to stay with me for all of it, because what I'm about to walk you through isn't a quick fix. It's not a 5 habits of confident people listicle. It's something deeper. Something that lives in your nervous system, not your mindset. Title card fades in slowly. The invisible geometry. There's a very specific way some people move through the world. You probably won't see it if you're looking for it. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't look like sadness. It doesn't look like fear. From the outside, it looks almost like grace. But it begins like this. You're about to walk into a room, any room, a party, a meeting, a family dinner, and something happens in your body about 3 seconds before you open the door. A tightening at the base of your neck. A quiet electrical signal that says, prepare. Your breathing shallows. Your shoulders draw in just slightly. Your physical footprint, the space your body takes up in the world, compresses. You become, without thinking about it, a little smaller. And then your brain runs a calculation so fast you don't even notice it's happening. How much space am I taking up? How much oxygen am I consuming? What is the precise cost of my presence to the people in this room? This is not anxiety about being judged. This is not social awkwardness. This is something far more specific, far more ingrained, and far more exhausting. This is your nervous system doing its job, protecting you, the way it was trained to. And here's what that protection looks like in real life, because I want you to recognize yourself in this. You rewrite a text message 4 times before sending it. Not because you're unsure what to say, but because you're making absolutely certain it demands nothing from the person receiving it. You soften every request into a suggestion. You add no worries if not to everything. You pre-apologize for the inconvenience of your own existence. Someone offers you a glass of water. You're thirsty, genuinely, physically thirsty, but you say, no, I'm fine, because your brain has registered that accepting feels like extraction, like you're taking something that doesn't fully belong to you. Someone has to adjust their plans, even slightly, to accommodate you, and you feel a spike of guilt so sharp it physically hurts. Not mild discomfort, a genuine bodily alarm. Like you've done something wrong. And through all of this, the external world sees nothing. Or worse, it sees something it admires. Oh, she's so easygoing. He never complains. She's just so low maintenance. And every time someone says that about you, there's this complicated thing that happens inside. Because part of you feels relief, good, it's working, and part of you feels a loneliness so specific it doesn't have a name. Because they're praising a version of you that you constructed specifically to protect them from the real one. Pause. The goal of your nervous system, the thing it is optimizing for, every single day, is not your happiness. It is something much more ancient than that. It is your safety through frictionlessness. To exist in the lives of others without disturbing the surface of the water. To be present without being felt. To matter, but only as a background feature, reliable, undemanding, invisible. And maintaining the flawless illusion of zero impact requires an amount of internal energy that would exhaust a professional athlete. Because you are not just living your life, you are simultaneously monitoring everyone else's. You are reading the micro shifts in tone in a text message. You are scanning someone's face for the first sign of irritation. You are running predictive models. Is this person about to be frustrated with me? And if so, what can I do right now to prevent it, on a constant, unbroken loop? Your body is a seismograph, and you are spending every waking hour detecting tremors in the emotional ground of everyone around you. That's not a personality trait. That's a 24-hour surveillance operation, and you are both the analyst and the subject. The misread. Here's the part that makes this so much worse. The world doesn't just fail to notice what you're doing. It actively misreads it as something beautiful, because in a culture that worships productivity and frictionless interaction, your hyper-accommodation passes as virtue. The friends who love you look at your endless patience and call you the most understanding person they know. Your family points to your self-sufficiency and says she's always been so independent. Your boss sees someone who never pushes back, never asks for more, never creates problems, and labels you a team player. And these labels feel good. Briefly, they feel like evidence that you're doing this right, but they function as a cage. Because when the people around you have decided that your needs are minimal, when they have built their picture of you around your frictionlessness, you have to work even harder to maintain the illusion. Every genuine need that surfaces becomes something to manage, to process privately, to shrink and smooth before it can be witnessed. The praise becomes its own pressure. You're so easy to be around starts to translate in your nervous system too. Do not be anything else. And then there's the second misread, which is somehow more isolating. Sometimes the accommodation goes so deep, the withdrawal becomes so complete, that people stop reading you as easygoing and start reading you as distant, as closed off, as someone who doesn't need people at all. They say you're fiercely independent. They say you're an introvert. They say she keeps to herself like it's a compliment, and you can't correct them, because correcting them would require admitting that you're not actually okay, that the self-sufficiency is not strength, that you are not independent. You are afraid that the moment you let someone see the real volume of what you carry, they will find it too much. And so you absorb the label, you perform it even, because at least the independent label doesn't require anything of anyone. Pause. The most tragic part of this whole architecture? Nobody is malicious here. The people in your life are not ignoring you. They are not indifferent. They genuinely see you. They're just seeing exactly what you've spent years perfecting, a surface. Calm, smooth, easy. They see the still water and assume the depth is peaceful. They do not see the machinery underneath, the constant pressure, the relentless, exhausting work of making sure the surface never breaks. They enjoy the quiet, because you made sure they would. The body keeps the bill. Let me talk about what this actually costs. Not emotionally, biologically. Because I think a lot of us have heard the emotional version of this story. You suppress your feelings, you burn out, you feel empty. We know that part. We've seen the TED talks. But the body part, the way this survival strategy metabolizes into actual cellular damage, that's the part we don't talk about enough. When your nervous system runs a constant threat assessment, when it treats the expression of a need as a survival-level danger, it doesn't do that through willpower. It does it through chemistry. Your body floods with cortisol, with adrenaline. These are your fight-or-flight neurochemicals, and they are brilliant for exactly what they were designed for. Short-term survival. Running from danger. Responding to a crisis. They are not designed to run for years. They are not designed to be the background hum of a Tuesday afternoon. When cortisol becomes your baseline, when your nervous system is perpetually in low-grade alarm, even in safe situations, the body begins to pay an escalating biological tax. Your immune system weakens. Chronic inflammation sets in. You get sick more often and you stay sick longer. You feel a fatigue that sleep doesn't fix, because this exhaustion isn't coming from insufficient rest. It's coming from years of running a high-security monitoring system on every relationship you've ever been in. And here is something I want you to really sit with, because it is the most insidious part of all of this. You are not resting even when you are alone. True biological rest, the kind your nervous system actually needs, requires dropping the monitor, lowering the guard, letting the seismograph go quiet. But you can't do that, because even in solitude the loop keeps running. You're replaying the conversation from this morning. You're pre-planning how to handle tomorrow. You're processing whether that person's short text means they're annoyed with you. You have never, maybe not once in your adult life, experienced a moment of true, complete, unguarded rest. And the body is keeping track. Pause. Now, here's where it gets very specific. Notice the relationship you have with your own physical pain. You will wait an unreasonable amount of time before going to the doctor. You will minimize symptoms to healthcare providers. It's probably nothing even when it has been going on for months. You will endure chronic discomfort, swallow pain, dismiss warning signals, because somewhere in the calculation, your brain has decided that requiring medical care is an inconvenience to the system, that your suffering is not a sufficient reason to burden a stranger who has other, more important patients. You will literally allow your body to degrade rather than risk the social friction of asking for help. Think about how extreme that is. You are biologically wired for self-preservation, and yet the survival strategy you built to protect your relationships is now overriding your instinct to protect your own health, because the ancient part of your brain still operates on the premise that being a burden to the group is more dangerous than physical illness. Being left behind to die alone is more frightening than the pain you're currently in. So you stay quiet, you say you're fine, and the body absorbs it. This is not a personality. I need to stop here and say something directly. This is not who you are. I know you've probably spent a lot of time thinking of yourself as just like this. Just introverted, just passive, just someone who prefers the background. You may have even made peace with it, built an identity around being the quiet one, the reliable one, the one who never asks for anything. And I am not trying to destabilize your sense of self, but I need you to understand something that changes everything. What you experience as your personality is, in significant part, a survival strategy that was never yours to choose. Here's how it works. Human beings, especially young ones, especially children, are not designed to be alone. Our survival is biologically predicated on maintaining closeness to the people who care for us. This is not metaphorical, this is physiological. An infant without attachment dies. A child without proximity to a caregiver is in genuine mortal danger. So the nervous system treats attachment as survival, as non-negotiable. Now, what happens when, in a developing child's environment, expressing a need, asking for comfort, crying, wanting attention is met with withdrawal? With a parent who becomes cold or overwhelmed or subtly resentful? The brain does what brains do. It learns. It registers the equation. Expressing a need leads to distance. Distance is danger. Therefore, expressing a need is dangerous. This happens not through conscious thought but through the body, through the amygdala, the brain's threat detection center, which begins to wire the authentic expression of self directly to the fear response. And so the child may be you, as a child learns the only way to maintain the crucial, life-sustaining closeness to their attachment figure is to take up less space, to need less, to become slowly and systematically invisible. The self-erasure doesn't begin as a choice, begins as a desperate act of biological intelligence. Pause. Scientists call what follows an appeasement or fawn response. It is one of the lesser discussed trauma responses: not fight, not flight, not freeze, but fawn. To placate, to accommodate, to become whatever the environment requires in order to remain safe. And fawn is not a conscious behavior. It is subcortical. It lives below the level of thought. Which is why you can know, intellectually, that your friend is not going to abandon you if you ask for help and still feel the terror of asking. Which is why therapy helps, but slowly, because you're not dealing with a belief. You're dealing with a nervous system that was wired before you had language. Longer pause. I want you to hold something for a moment. You did not fail to develop confidence. You did not lack courage. You were not born without the capacity for self-advocacy. You had those things. Every child does. And somewhere, in some relationship, in some small repeated dynamic you may not even fully remember, you learned that it was safer not to use them. The quietness is not peaceful. It is hypervigilant. The accommodation is not kindness. It is a meticulously maintained defensive strategy. The ease with which you defer to others is not your character. It is the scar tissue of an old wound that was never named. The people you love the most. I want to talk about your closest relationships, your romantic partnerships, your deepest friendships, the people you love the most. Because this is where the real tragedy lives. The assumption the one every love song and every romantic comedy tells us is that intimacy is where the armor comes off. That love is the safe place where you can finally be fully known, where you can put down the careful performance and just be. But for a nervous system calibrated the way yours is, intimacy is not safety. Intimacy is the highest stakes theater of operations there is. Because the closer someone gets to you, the more you have to protect them from the actual you. Think about what you do when you're genuinely upset in a relationship. You don't go to your partner. You process it alone in private until the emotion is manageable, until you can present a cleaned-up, low-intensity version of what you went through. A version that doesn't ask too much. A version that doesn't make them feel responsible. You don't ask for comfort. You manage your own distress so completely that by the time you mention it, it doesn't even look like distress anymore. It looks like a brief, resolved anecdote. You have never, or rarely, let someone sit with you in the full, unfiltered weight of what you carry. Because that would be a burden. Pause. And here is the devastating paradox of this. The person who loves you, who chose you, who is here, is in a relationship with a carefully curated version of you. A low-resolution, low-maintenance image of who you are. And they love it. They love you. But they don't know you. Not fully. Not the way you need to be known. You have secured the relationship and eliminated the possibility of being truly seen inside it. You are loved. But you are loved at arm's length, because you will not let anyone close enough to see what it costs you to let them in. Pause. And the loneliness of this specific loneliness of being loved but unseen, is the loneliness that doesn't have a name. Because from the outside, you're not lonely. You're surrounded by people who care about you. You can't explain why you still feel alone in a room full of people who love you, but you feel it. And now you know why. The slow disappearing over years, and I mean years, not weeks. Not months. This survival architecture does something quiet and devastating. It doesn't just change what you ask for. It changes what you know how to want. The nervous system is adaptive. If you consistently suppress the signal that says "I'm hungry," the signal gets quieter. If you always override the alarm that says this boundary has been crossed, the alarm starts to malfunction. If you chronically ignore the internal voice that says "I am not okay," That voice eventually stops speaking clearly. You don't just lose the ability to ask for what you need. You lose the ability to know what you need. The internal compass doesn't break dramatically. It dismantles itself piece by piece in service of the greater goal, never being a burden, never causing friction, never making anyone responsible for the reality of your existence. Pause, and this is where the cost becomes something beyond metaphor. You are moving through your own life like a ghost, not dead, not absent, but haunting the periphery of an existence that was supposed to be yours. You take the worst seat at the table. You eat the cold food without mentioning it. You spend money on everyone else and hesitate at the threshold of spending anything on yourself, as if your own pleasure is an act of aggression against the universe. Every single daily decision is filtered through the same question: how do I minimize my footprint? And the terrifying thing, the thing I need you to hear, is that this is not occasional. This is not just at hard moments or in certain relationships. This is continuous. This is every room you walk into, every text you send, every need you have that you intercept before it reaches your voice. It is running right now, even as you watch this. Pause. The nervous system doesn't have a category for happiness. It doesn't optimize for joy or fulfillment or even peace. It optimizes for survival. And it decided a long time ago that your survival required your disappearance. So the adaptation is working. You are safe. You are connected. You are liked and loved and considered easy to be around. And you are slowly, quietly, invisibly going hollow. The question underneath everything: I want to end this not with a solution. Because this is not the kind of thing that has a clean resolution. Not in a single video. Not in a single therapy session. Not in a single conversation with someone you trust. But I want to end with a question, a real one. One I need you to actually sit with. If the version of you that the world sees is a performance designed to make sure no one is ever inconvenienced by your presence, who is the person underneath? Pause. Who do you become in the 30 seconds before you walk through the door? Before the calculation starts? Before the compression begins? What does that person need? What does that person want that they've never let themselves say out loud? Pause. Because that person is not gone. The nervous system is incredibly powerful, but it is not the self. The adaptation is not the identity. The performance is not who you are. You are somewhere underneath all of it. Quiet, waiting, possibly a little angry, and that anger is important. Hold on to it. The work of your life, not the productivity, not the being useful, not the making everyone comfortable. The actual work of your life is learning to let that person take up space. Not all at once, not dramatically, not by burning everything down. Just one small moment of genuine presence at a time. You don't have to stop apologizing forever. You just have to notice the next time you do it and ask yourself if you actually did anything wrong. You don't have to suddenly ask for everything. You just have to let one need go unfiltered. One time. See what happens. Pause. The world will not collapse because you are in it. I promise you. Pause. The world doesn't need you to be smaller. It needs you to stop pretending you are.